Alright, so today I will go over the true first arc of the Kaiju number 8 series, the secondary selection exam arc. In this arc, Kafka and Ichikawa try to pass the defense troop member secondary selection exam to get into the Kaiju defense force, but they also meet a new threat who could have ended it all. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, let's get right into it. We are beginning this arc with a live TV broadcast talking about the furious Kaiju number 8. The cleaning squad is on their break and is watching it. They talk about what could have happened to Kaiju number 8, but none of them know for sure, except Ichikawa, who is standing in the back, listening in. He knows that it is his co-worker Kafka who has become the unneutralized Kaiju number 8. Right when Ichikawa is in his mind, someone calls his name, telling him that he and Kafka have both gotten 2 letters from the defense squad. Ichikawa opens his eyes and sees that he has passed the first stage examination. When Ichikawa finds Kafka, he screams that both of them have passed the first stage exam, but when he gets closer to Kafka, who is in his kaiju form, he gets mad and kicks him, telling him that it's too dangerous for him to show himself in broad daylight. Ichikawa gives him his letter, but Kafka is surprisingly calm and tells him that he always fails on the second stage anyway. Ichikawa warns him that if he takes the second stage exam, he will have to be extra careful, because there will be officers who won't hesitate to kill him. But even so, Kafka is set on taking it, telling him that this is his last chance to fulfill his promise. And with both of them taking the exam, they are now rivals. 10 days later, they arrive at the defense squad building, and they are amazed at the bare glaze of it. When the two of them are just about to go in, they hear a voice calling Kafka an old man. When they turn around, they see a young girl. When Kafka understands that he is the old man, he tries to save the embarrassment and tells her that he is only 32 and can't be considered an old man yet. After Kafka's soul has left his body, she asks them to move their car so that she can park in their spot, even though the entire parking spot is filled with open spaces. However, it's all reasonable because her lucky number is 5. When she gets tired of Kafka's meaningless talk, she decides to do it herself, so she puts on her suit and somehow manages to grab the entire car with only one arm and throw the beautiful company car to the side, telling them that she is examinee number 2016, Kikoru Shinomiya. She goes forward to Kafka and tells him that he reeks of kaiju. Ichikawa tries to save it by telling her that they work in the kaiju disposal place. Kafka tells her that she isn't the only one who is here for the job, and reveals that he is examinee 2032 Kafka Hibino. But the real fighter here is Shinomiya's butler, who managed to steal the car spot from Kafka before heading off. Shinomiya tells Kafka that she will make a fool of him. The second stage examination, which is regarded as the toughest exam in human history, has now started. In the changing rooms, they talked about the upcoming test and found out that the test is divided into 2 parts, the first being a fitness test and the second being an aptitude test. Because of the mysterium and wild traits of the second test, it is crucial for both of them to score points in the fitness test. But no one said that it was going to be easy, and Kafka realizes that when he gets placed 219th out of the available 225, and if that wasn't enough, he also gets laughed at by Shinomiya. After that, we get to see the 3rd Division captain, Mina Ashiro, looking over the lineup for this year when she stumbles across Kafka, which puts a shocked expression on her face. Back to the test, where Ichikawa tells Kafka about all of the strong opponents they are faced with. But the strongest of them all is Kikoru Shinomiya. After that, it's time for the second part of the examination, the aptitude test. But Ichikawa tells Kafka that for the past 2 years, the exam has been about kaiju body disposal, and that they might have an upper hand in this. But imagine their surprise when it was not about disintegrating kaiju, but instead neutralizing them. However, before they go out, they are equipped with special suits like the one Shinomiya had. After everyone has put on their suits, it's time to find out their power. They are given a number based on the unleashed combat power of their suit. Ichikawa has 8% and asks Hoshina what it means. Hoshina tells him that it indicates how much of the suit power you are able to draw out, and that 8% is nothing to sneeze about. But in the midst of it all, Shinomiya gets a crazy 46%, putting her in the same class as a platoon leader and also breaking the record. Hoshina tries to ensure Ichikawa that as long as your power is over 0, you are sure to pass, and that no one has ever gotten a score of a meager 0% until now, because Kafka's power is 0%, making even the vice captain laugh at him. Anyway, with the suits on, they are ready for the final test. Their targets are the 36 Honju and Yoju, who are somewhere in the area. Shinomiya finds her first prey and kills it with little to no effort, but that can't be said for Ichikawa and Kafka, who are far behind. even with their lack of offensive abilities, they achieve something. They find it strange that everyone has gotten a drone assigned to them, and that if the test was just based on killing kaiju, then they could just count them with sensors. So they come to the conclusion that there are more things that the defense force is looking for in this test. With this newfound knowledge, Kafka and Ichikawa decided to prove backup as their way to shine. They find a yoju and go behind it to throw a stun grenade. The stun grenade completely blocks out their sense of hearing, and after that, Kafka also tells attackers to go for the stomach because of its thin skin. While all that happens, a kaiju comes from behind a building and punches Kafka, making him drop to the ground. As kaiju goes in for another attack, Kafka knows that the defense force will have to activate the remote shield to save him, while also making him fail. But just in time, Shinomiya comes and kills the kaiju, telling Kafka that no casualties or dropouts are allowed on her battlefield before she runs to kill another kaiju. Hoshina calls Kafka, telling him that his readings are abnormal and that he would recommend dropping out, but Kafka asks him to let him keep going and that this is no time to give up. To assist the damaged Kafka, he gets a piggyback from Ichikawa, telling him to combine their powers and to stop Shinomiya from ending this test before they can prove themselves. But when they get a sight of Shinomiya, they see her insane speed and powers as she takes out the kaiju in no time. Shinomiya sees the last kaiju and goes for it. She throws a grenade at it, making it scream out of pain. But Shinomiya uses this as an opportunity to get over the kaiju and shoots right into its throat, blowing the entire kaiju up. The final exam is now over and done. Back in the control tower, Hoshina tells Mina that they had at least anticipated 30 dropouts, but thanks to Shinomiya's powers, no one dropped out, and they got away with minimal injuries. As Shinomiya is headed back, she looks behind her to find a strange figure standing behind her. Before she is able to react, the strange figure shoots her with the tip of its finger. On the other side, however, we have Kafka and Ichikawa lying down on the floor, exhausted, to get up. But that all changes when they see the dead kaiju bodies starting to grow back and they start to question what is happening. Lucky Shinomiya was able to focus all of her shields on a single point to stop the attack from reaching her heart, but the attack still took a lot on her as she was now coughing up blood. When she looks back up, she sees the mysterious kaiju being able to speak, which shocks her, but the shock quickly turns to fear as he turns around to inflict multiple more shots on Shinomiya. Back in the control tower, everyone is going crazy wondering what is happening, but in the midst of all the panic, there is one who has kept herself composed and stayed calm. And who else could it be if not the captain herself, Mina Ashiro, who tells Hoshina that we are deploying. Back on the battlefield, everyone has been ordered to evacuate, but Shinomiya refuses because she knows that if they don't stop it here, then countless more lives will be lost, before taking a hit right to the face and knocking her back against a pile of stones. After that, we get a flashback to Shinomiya's younger years, when she was always at the top of her class. But when her classmates' parents came to congratulate their kids, she was suddenly in the middle of the crowd with a sad smile on her face. But when she went to tell her dad about her achievement, he just brushed it off, telling Shinomiya that she has to be perfect for the future of this country. After that, we get back into the fight, where we see Shinomiya's courage and her persistence to not quite finish the fight. But when she notices her broken arm, all of that washes away. In Shinomiya's final moments, she apologizes to her dad and says that she couldn't be perfect after all. But that's when Kafka comes in, telling her that she did an amazing job and telling her to leave the rest up to him as he transforms into his kaiju form. Shinomiya is shocked at Kafka's transformation, but before she can even comprehend what is happening, Kafka begs her to keep this a secret from the defense force. In the midst of their conversation, Kaiju loads up some kind of beam attack and shoots it at Kafka and Shinomiya, but Kafka deflects. Kafka tries to explain everything to Shinomiya, but first he has to take care of the kaiju. Kafka starts charging up his ultimate attack, and before he attacks the kaiju, he tells him that he will end this with one shot. And Kafka wasn't lying, as he completely obliterated the kaiju into thin air. When all of it is over, Kafka tells Shinomiya that he happened to see her safe, but we can't say the same thing about Kafka, who gets a beating from Ichikawa, who tells him to be more careful, but in the middle of their argument, Shinomiya falls to the ground. When Ashiro and Hoshina arrive at the battlefield, they find it suspicious that all of the monsters who were alive are now dead, and they decide that an investigation is necessary. Hoshina thinks that this incident and the one from 3 months ago could somehow be connected. Back at the hospital, we can see that both Ichikawa and Kafka managed to get away with only some minor injuries. After a while, Ashiro enters the room, where she thanks them for helping to save Shinomiya's life. Kafka goes to talk to her but decides not to, and to wait until he becomes a troop member. In the city, we see mysterious kaiju listening to the radio with a surprised face after hearing that no one died under his mission, before getting a call telling him that the break is over. After that, he transforms back, and we can see that he is one of the kaiju cleaners. On the day of the passing examination, we can see Shinomiya, who was the top examinee out of the group. She looks over at all the others, wondering why Kafka isn't there, and that he should have been the one to get praise for his hard work. But just then, Kafka comes into the room and excuses himself for only joining in part way through, which puts a happy smile on both Shinomiya's and Ichikawa's faces. 3 months had passed since they enlisted, and we find Ichikawa putting in his best effort during shooting training. He achieved an estimated release force of 18%. Hoshina was impressed by Ichikawa's progress. However, Iharu had a different reaction, cautioning Ichikawa against becoming too overconfident. Suddenly, Kikoru took another shooting test and scored 55% in unleashed combat power. She playfully teased the others for scoring lower than her. Haruichi sighed, feeling average compared to Kikoru's high score. Aoi also reminded him to consider others at his level, displaying his own score. Despite the challenge, Haruichi accepted it, determined to surpass Kikoru. His declaration sparked tension among the top scorers. Meanwhile, our protagonist managed to achieve a 1% release force, which was cause for celebration. He proudly showed Kikoru that he had progressed from 0 to 1. Hoshina intervened, reminding Kafka that with his score, he wouldn't be able to advance to a regular officer rank in 3 months. Despite this, Ichikawa felt proud of Kafka's improvement. Hoshina concluded the training session with 10 laps around the perimeter. Hoshina's assistant observed the competitive nature of the new recruits, and Hoshina was pleased to see them motivating each other. In the bath, the competitiveness continued as Iharu boasted about his muscles to Ichikawa. Listening to their argument, Kafka stood up to display his muscular arms, the result of hard work as an adult. However, his rounded tummy was not as appealing. He explained it away as extra protection for his waist, which prompted laughter from Iharu. Suddenly, Aoi entered the bath with his toned body, causing Ichikawa and Iharu to hide themselves in the water, with Kafka following suit. Our protagonist realized it had been a while since he had enjoyed a relaxing bath. Iharu then asked the others why they had joined the defense force. He mentioned that he joined because he idolized Ashiro after she saved him. Aoi and Haruichi explained that they joined for family reasons, but also because of Ashiro. Kafka realized the extent of Ashiro's fame. Iharu then inquired why Kafka had joined, and everyone was shocked to learn that he was Ashiro's childhood friend. Iharu couldn't believe they had the promise from the past thing. Kafka attempted to leave, but the Ashiro fanboys prevented him from doing so. Kafka had no choice but to share some insights about Ashiro. Shortly after, Kikoru and the girls had finished their bath and stumbled upon unconscious men nearby. Some of the girls mentioned that the boys had spent too much time talking about Ashiro in the bath. As bedtime approached, Kafka decided to stay up late studying to avoid being dismissed. Suddenly, Hoshina appeared and reminded him of the importance of sleep for their job. Kafka insisted he couldn't afford to be kicked out. Hoshina understood it was because of Ashiro, surprising Kafka. Hoshina explained that all conversations, even in the bath, were monitored, which Kafka found creepy. Kafka earnestly stated his commitment to fighting alongside Ashiro. Hoshina wondered if Kafka's goal was to become vice captain. Although Kafka didn't plan on it, it might happen. Hoshina became agitated and slammed the table before walking away, leaving Kafka with 2 more hours and the keys. He made it clear he wouldn't relinquish his place beside Ashiro. Kafka expressed gratitude, and Hoshina cautioned him against getting too close to his fellow officers, as anything could happen in their line of work. Suddenly, the alarms blared, waking everyone up and signaling the appearance of a kaiju. Hoshina informed Kafka that it would be his first mission as a cadet. But with that, it brings us to the end of the arc. But if you liked this video, then be sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And if you want me to cover the next arc, which would be the Sagamihara Subjugation Operation arc, then be sure to let me know by leaving a comment. Anyway, I hope you have a nice day and bye.